Hi HDFS students. Welcome to one of two videos you need to watch about the budget. So we're skipping ahead a little bit to the budget. We're skipping two small sections, partnering organizations and sustainability plan. So the budget comes right after evaluation, right before your appendices. And just another friendly reminder on your proposal checklist. So let me just orient you to what are some common things that you might have in your budget. So you would have the cost of the evidence-based program materials, like maybe there's workbooks or videos that you need to purchase. Then you would have the costs associated with the evidence-based training for your staff, and I'll say more about that. Then you're going to have costs associated with your staff. You may have equipment or you may not that you need, things like iPads or other things like that, or supplies, which might be like paper, printing. Food, you may or may not have that. Transportation, if you're needing to transport your participants to certain kind of locations. Any travel, like to pay if your staff need to travel to attend the training. Printing and postage could be separate from supplies, and the costs of your evaluation measures. So as you learned in the evaluation section, some of the measures are for purchase. And so if you can find out, what the cost of your measures might be and how many you're going to need, and include that in your budget. Okay, so what I'm going to encourage you to do is to pause this video, go ahead and go under the module overview page where you found this lecture and look at the budget template. It's got multiple tabs, and then watch the budget video that Dr. C.K. Rizzo created for all HDFS 492 classes, walking you through how to use the template. And then go ahead and take a peek at the course workbook, which has some nice, basically like structures to help you think about what needs to go in your budget. Hey, I'm just popping back in here to add a slide about how do you figure out how much to pay staff, like what's a principal at an elementary school get paid, or what does a counselor get paid? So you can just do some searching. You can either go to the link that we have under assignment resources and on this module overview page for Bureau of Labor Statistics salaries, or you can look on Indeed or Glassdoor. Just pay attention to whether or not the listing you're seeing on those job sites is full-time, part-time, and then kind of calculate accordingly. So one decision you're going to be making, and I can help with this, is whether or not your staff is going to be paid salary versus hourly. And so pretty much if they are working a similar amount of hours per week, most of the 12 months of the project timeline, then you can say that they're going to be salary. But if they're working less or kind of intermittent hours, like maybe they're just there to deliver the program, but they're not working to get the program developed, launched, and evaluated afterwards, then maybe it makes sense to have them just paid hourly. All right, so this is something else you heard Dr. Rizzo mention on the budget video, this idea of in-kind, and I wanted to say a little bit more about that. So in-kind means that we're going to list a cost for it in our budget, but we're not going to ask the funder to pay for it. It's kind of our way of saying, hey, we're meeting you halfway because we're providing some things in kind that we're not asking you to pay for. So you can have in-kind staff. And that might be if this person already works at your agency, so you didn't have to hire them for this, and it's kind of smaller amounts of work. So maybe it's an administrative assistant who's just processing registration forms or something like that. Or is this a person or an intern that you wouldn't actually pay anyway? You'll still figure out what their cost would be, maybe the hourly minimum wage, and then you're going to say, hey, look, this is what it would cost you, but we've got volunteers or interns covering that. One reason to do in kind is if when you start totaling up your budget and you figure out how much this is going to cost per participant, you feel like, wow, that's a little too high. What could we make in kind? You can also do in kind supplies. Again, this might be things that the agency already has. Like we already have laptops that can be used, so we're going to call that an in kind donation. what is reasonable to get donated. And so you don't actually have to call, Pizza Hut and see if they're going to donate pizza or the food bank. You can just, for this project, make it up and guess. But you also want to be reasonable about it. So Pizza Hut's not going to donate dinner, 7 times, right? And for 100 people, they might donate a little bit, for one night. Or it might be the food bank that you work with to get it more regularly. So don't feel like you have to overdo it on the donation of the supplies. Try to be realistic about it. Some groups may have in-kind staff and supplies, and some groups might not. One thing that often gets overlooked in the budgets is the EBP, evidence-based program training costs. And so first, under the staff spreadsheet, you're going to need to pay your staff for their time while they're being trained. And then under supplies, you can put how you're going to pay the evidence-based program for the amount of people being trained and for any additional materials. Okay, I will admit that the budget submission is a little bit confusing, and it's different for the draft than it is for the final. So for the draft, you're going to submit your full spreadsheet with all 3 tabs filled out as an Excel file. And then you're also, which I'll say more about here in another upcoming slide, going to write a very short introduction or budget summary as a Word document. So when you submit the draft, you'll submit an Excel file and a Word document. When you submit your final, then there's a different process where you're going to insert a screenshot of your full budget sheet into the proposal right under your budget summary, and then a full detailed budget as an appendix. And you can see this in the sample proposals. So as you'll see if you glance at a sample proposal, the budget summary is just basically some introductory sentences before you put in kind of your total budget into your grant proposal. And so you can see an example here. Basically, you say what you're going to be doing and what you need and how much of that is in kind and how much of that is requested, and optionally, how many people you're going to serve and what the cost is per participant. Okay, here's the requirements for the budget draft. This is what the rubric looks like. You'll get points for completing the staff budget sheet, the supplies budget sheet, and the full budget sheet. Again, these are all in that budget template. There's 3 separate tabs in the Excel file. I'm also looking to make sure that you've calculated the cost per participant and it's reasonable given the scope of the program. So you shouldn't be paying $1,500 per participant for a 4-week workshop in which you only meet 2 hours once a week, right? That would be a lot of money. That would be, like $400 a week for 2 hours per person. However, you could be paying that for a 2-week all-day summer camp, day camp experience, or that might be more reasonable. I'm also looking to make sure that the budget is consistent with methods. So again, if you don't have the most recent version of methods, if things have changed, make sure that's updated in the methods draft submission box. But everything that you said in methods, like we're going to purchase iPads, I should see iPads in the budget. We're going to provide childcare, I should see costs for staff providing childcare in the budget. We're going to be providing food, I should see some meals in the budget. So everything kind of has to match up. And there shouldn't also be anything in the budget that you didn't introduce in the methods. So I don't want to suddenly read oh, we're going to be providing childcare in the budget, but there was no mention of that in the methods. So just make sure they match up, and if decisions have changed, revise the methods and resubmit. And then again, I already mentioned the written budget summary, and again, please keep that really succinct and concise. Okay, you've already reviewed some of these resources, most likely the budget video by CK Rizzo, the budget template, the sample budgets, which I've recently updated, so they should be in pretty good shape. The course workbook, which has some nice kind of worksheet type materials to help you think things through. As always, the proposal checklist, and again, making sure you're looking at the revised methods section and revising it if needed. Okay, budgets are tough. I'm really happy to think things through with you. So just pop into my office hours and I'll give you some quick help.